Let us take a step back and really look at what this story is telling us, because beneath the surface headlines there is a much bigger truth unfolding. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped away from royal life almost 6 years ago, yet the palace is still reportedly watching their every move. That alone should tell us something powerful. You do not monitor people who no longer matter. You do not closely observe actions that have no influence. The continued attention speaks volumes about the impact Harry and Meghan still have on the monarchy and on public perception worldwide. Harry and Meghan now live a life that is physically distant from the United Kingdom, raising their children in Montecito with a level of privacy and freedom they were never afforded within royal walls. And yet, despite the ocean between them, their presence is still felt. That is not accidental. That is relevance. That is influence. That is the quiet proof that their voices and choices still shape conversations about the future of the monarchy, whether certain people like it or not. According to reports, even personal appearances in Hollywood are being closely watched by the palace. Think about that for a moment. These are not official royal engagements. These are not state functions. These are private citizens attending social events in their own country. And yet, insiders claim that every public move is analysed through the lens of trust and perception within the royal family. That level of scrutiny shows just how deeply the Sussexes disrupted the traditional power dynamic simply by choosing autonomy. Harry and Meghan made a choice that no senior royals before them dared to make. They chose transparency over silence. They chose mental health over image management. They chose their family over institutional pressure. And once that choice was made, it exposed truths that can never be fully buried again. The palace watching them now is not about protocol. It is about control and the loss of it. The reported displeasure over Harry and Meghan attending Kris Jenner's birthday party is especially revealing. This was a private social event. It was not political. It was not controversial. It was a gathering of influential figures in entertainment and media. The idea that this would cause concern within royal circles highlights a lingering expectation that Harry and Meghan should still behave according to royal approval, even after stepping away. What this really shows is that the institution has struggled to accept that Harry and Meghan are no longer bound by royal optics. They are no longer working royals. They are no longer representatives of the crown. They are global public figures in their own right. And that distinction is something parts of the palace seem unable or unwilling to fully process. The suggestion that Harry and Meghan weighed the pros and cons of attending the party speaks to their awareness, not guilt. They understand how narratives are created. They understand how their presence can be twisted into headlines, but understanding consequences does not mean living in fear of them. It means making intentional choices, and that is exactly what Harry and Meghan have done since day one of their independent life. They have consistently shown thoughtfulness in how they move through public spaces. They do not chase attention. Attention follows them. They do not rely on royal association to be invited into influential rooms. Their work, their platform, and their lived experiences have positioned them there. That is why their social appearances are scrutinized. It is not because they are reckless. It is because they are powerful outside the system that once defined them. There is also an underlying discomfort in seeing Meghan especially thrive in spaces that value her voice and presence. Hollywood represents freedom of expression, creative control, and narrative ownership. These are things Meghan was denied within royal life. Seeing her welcomed and respected in those circles challenges the old narrative that she needed the monarchy more than it needed her. Harry, too, has redefined what leadership looks like. Instead of rigid formality, he leads with vulnerability. Instead of silence, he chooses honesty. His advocacy for mental health, veterans and trauma-informed care has resonated globally. That kind of leadership does not require a palace backdrop. It requires authenticity. And authenticity is something that cannot be managed or contained once it is embraced. The palace monitoring their actions also suggests an awareness that Harry and Meghan still shape public conversations about the monarchy without even trying to. Their mere existence outside the institution invites comparison. Their visible happiness challenges long-standing assumptions. Their willingness to speak openly invites questions others have been afraid to ask. This is not about resentment from Harry and Meghan. It is about the discomfort of an institution facing the consequences of its own rigidity. When people leave a system and flourish, it forces that system to confront its failures. And that is exactly what is happening here. Harry and Meghan have never claimed perfection. What they have asked for is fairness, safety, and dignity. Their departure was not an attack, it was a boundary, and boundaries often anger those who benefited from the lack of them. The idea that their attendance at a birthday party could affect their standing within the monarchy also raises an important question. Why should it? If stepping back was meant to create independence, then continued judgment undermines that agreement. It reinforces the very pressures Harry and Meghan sought to escape. Yet, despite all of this, Harry and Meghan continue to live their lives with intention. They focus on their children. They invest in causes that matter to them. They collaborate with organisations aligned with their values. They show up where they are invited and where they feel respected. That is not rebellion. That is self-determination. Their continued impact also reflects public interest. People are still listening to Harry and Meghan because their story resonates. It speaks to anyone who has ever left a toxic environment. Anyone who has chosen their well-being over approval. Anyone who has been told they should be grateful for circumstances that caused them harm. What some call consequences are actually reflections of change. The monarchy is no longer insulated from criticism or comparison. Harry and Meghan did not create that shift alone, but they accelerated it by refusing to play a role that harmed them. If anything, the palace watching from afar is a reminder that the Sussexes are still part of the broader story of the monarchy, whether officially acknowledged or not. Their absence speaks as loudly as their presence once did, and their independence continues to influence how the institution is perceived globally. In the end, Harry and Meghan attending a Hollywood birthday party is not a scandal. It is a symbol of freedom, a symbol of life beyond rigid tradition, a symbol of choosing joy and community over constraint. And if that still unsettles certain people behind palace walls, that says far more about the institution than it does about the couple who dared to walk away. Harry and Meghan are not trying to disrupt. They are simply living honestly. And sometimes honesty is the most disruptive force of all.